You know, Dr. Esselstyn, who has the most militant position, and he looks great. He's about 10 years older than we are.
Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., a 91-year-old doctor, general surgeon, and trailblazer in the plant-based nutrition movement, has helped countless patients overcome heart conditions, including former President Bill Clinton. Before diving into Dr. Esselstyn's top 6 foods to avoid for protecting and strengthening endothelial cells, let's take a moment to learn about what President Clinton eats to maintain his heart health. At just 58 years old, Clinton underwent a 4-hour heart surgery in 2004. However, after adopting the plant-based diet recommended by Dr. Esselstyn, he has remained healthy and thriving at 78 years old in 2025. His story is a testament to the transformative power of nutrition.
I live on beans, legumes, vegetables, fruit. I drink a protein supplement every morning, no dairy. I drink almond milk mixed in with fruit and a protein powder, so I get the protein for the day when I start the day out. And it changed my whole metabolism. I did it because after I had this stent put in, I realized that even though it happens quite often that after you have bypasses, you lose the veins because they're thinner and weaker than arteries. The truth is that it clogged up, which means that the cholesterol was still causing buildup in my vein that was part of my bypass. And thank God I could take the stents. I don't want it to happen again. So I did all this research, and I saw that 82% of the people since 1986 who have gone on a plant-based, no dairy, no meat of any kind, no chicken, turkey. I eat very little fish. Once in a while I'll have a little fish, not often. If you can do it, 82% of the people who've done that have begun to heal themselves. Their arterial blockage cleans up. The calcium deposit around their heart breaks up.
Let's discuss what the former president said with the doctors behind the diet that helped Mr. Clinton change his life. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn is the author of Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease.
The truth were known that coronary artery disease is a toothless paper tiger that need never exist. And if it does exist, it need never, ever progress. What we've heard from President Clinton is the remarkable change that he's been willing to make to remove completely from his nutrition those foods which we know will devastate and injure the inner lining of your arteries. And the remarkable thing is the capacity that the body has to heal itself. And when you do what President Clinton has done, where you completely try to remove any foods that are going to injure your vessel, the body has this remarkable capacity to begin to heal itself. And I'm afraid that as a medical profession, we perhaps have fallen down and really emphasized too much the drugs and the procedures and the operations which really treat the symptoms. They do not treat the causation of this illness. This is one of the few times since Hippocrates that we have not told patients about the causation of their illness.
In this video, we'll explore the top 6 foods to avoid to protect and strengthen your endothelial cells, the vital lining of your blood vessels. But before that, let's dive into how exactly junk foods harm your blood vessels and heart health.
When you are eating the cheeseburger, the milkshake, the pizza, the first thing that starts to happen in your bloodstream is those cellular elements begin to get sticky, sticky, sticky. Your endothelial cells get sticky. Your platelets, your clotting factor gets sticky. Your white blood cells get sticky. Your LDL cholesterol gets sticky. When Dr. Robert Vogel was chairman of cardiology at the University of Maryland, when he took a group of healthy young subjects to a certain fast food restaurant characterized by arches which are golden, half of them got the cornflakes, their brachial artery tourniquet test, normal. Now the other half had the hash browns and sausage. And within 120 minutes of eating that meal, with the brachial artery tourniquet test, they could not dilate the artery. That single meal had so sufficiently trashed, injured, compromised, and turned that endothelial system into a train wreck that they couldn't dilate the artery. However, being young, as they followed them into the late afternoon, early evening, they began to recover. Yet, you and I know that the next morning for breakfast, it's going to be scrambled eggs and bacon. Lunchtime, it'll probably be white bread with cold cuts and mayonnaise. And then at supper time, we'll have baked potato with sour cream, lamb chops, vegetables soaked in butter, ranch dressing on the salad, and ice cream for dessert. Here in the good old USA, starting as kids, youngsters, we just take those endothelial cells and we crush them and we beat them and we destroy them. And it's no great mystery why it is that we have such an epidemic of cardiovascular disease.
Who are the people who are sick? They were all the previously well. How did they get sick? By eating the foods that injured them. And some of those people took enough of those foods to injure them to the point where they got sick. I'm reminded of a study several years ago of 905,000 patient years of follow-up with the men and women who were 55 years of age. And they had absolutely optimal risk factors. Their weight, their blood pressure, their cholesterol, everything was fine. And they followed them for 30 years. At age 85 now, 30% of the women and 40% of the men had now developed cardiovascular disease. We have to kind of think carefully about those who are well today and what is the message that we want to give them to maintain them in that state.
The number one culprit when it comes to damaging endothelial cells is oil.
No oil. No oil. No oil. Why? Because the data. Olive oil is terribly seductive. Scott Grundy did some studies that are very short term that showed that it increases your good cholesterol, lowers your bad cholesterol, improves your ratio. It got a huge amount of press. Doctors heard about it, and therefore it must be wonderful, right? Wrong. Because you look at longer term studies, Blankenhorn, right in California, two groups of patients, one saturated fat, the other monounsaturated like olive oil at the baseline angiogram at the end of the year. The angiogram disease of coronary disease had progressed just as much in each group. Lawrence Rudell in the research triangle took the African green monkey, similar lipid metabolism to man, saturated, unsaturated, 5 years. In the monounsaturated olive oil group, higher HDL, lower LDL, better ratio, autopsy, just as much coronary disease. The oil companies didn't like that, so Lawrence Rudell repeated the study with rodents, and the result, the same. Dr. Vogel has gone on and shown us indeed that olive oil activates clotting factor 7 just as much as butter. Vogel in a separate study and Ong in a separate study have shown how it impairs flow-mediated dilatation that I just talked to you about, the brachial artery tourniquet test. In the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, olive oil along with meat and dairy is implicated in a risk factor for breast cancer.
Oil. All oils. Olive oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, oil in a cracker, oil in bread, oil in salad dressing, oil injures endothelial cells.
Here is a peer-reviewed scientific study showing that olive, soybean, and palm oil intake have a similar acute detrimental effect over the endothelial function in healthy young subjects.
And remember, the whole thing you're trying to do to protect yourself from cardiovascular disease, you want to have all the nitric oxide you can. And the nitric oxide is being produced by your endothelial cells that line the artery. So I don't like anything that's going to injure the endothelial cell. And so I think the data are pretty clear also. I have yet to see a study of patients who are seriously ill with cardiovascular disease. We're going on a diet of oil as a regular part of it, that they've ever arrested or reversed the disease. One of the questions I always ask people is, how often do you eat out? And the first reply I almost always get is, oh, not very often. And I said, well, would you mind going over that again? Well, maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times a week. If it's somebody who's already had a heart attack, and they go to a restaurant, because you're going to get oil unless you can have a special relationship with the chef, which you can do. But all the menus have oil. So if you're going 3 times a week, that's about 106 days out of 365 that you're further destroying the endothelial tissue, which is so vital for making nitric oxide, which was responsible for the first heart attack that patient who's inquiring had.
The second is caffeinated coffee.
I'm a little bit tough on coffee with caffeine. And let me tell you why I prefer my patients to have coffee that is decaf. One from Greek study, then there's an Italian study, and I'll share with you the Italian study. The spring of 2010, European Journal of Clinical Nutrition. The Italians took 2 groups of young subjects, one getting decaf, the other getting caffeinated coffee. Then they did the brachial artery tourniquet test. Switch groups. It was always the group that was having coffee with caffeine that injures the endothelial production of nitric oxide, because that's what we want. We want nitric oxide.
How about tea?
The data don't seem to be quite as harsh. It's something about the mixture of the coffee with caffeine, because I don't see the same problem with black tea or green tea, which has caffeine.
Dr. Esselstyn focuses on whole food, plant-based diet. So, it's not surprising to find meat on the list.
As does anything with a mother or face: meat, fish, chicken, fowl, turkey.
In October of 2015, the World Health Organization, imagine this, the WHO membership from all over the world came together and agreed that red meat now had the same level of carcinogenicity as smoking cigarettes.
The fourth is alcohol.
Alcohol is a toxin, and there's more recent studies have clearly shown that when you metabolize alcohol, it goes to an aldehyde, and that's not a wonderful thing for your cells. So alcohol is toxic to your brain, it's toxic to your liver, it's toxic to your kidneys. I think that probably it's not at all unreasonable, since I'm such a liberal, that if you want to have a glass of wine or a glass of beer on a Saturday night or a Friday night, that's okay.
The fifth is sugar in excess.
Maple syrup, molasses, and honey in excess. You got to go easy on the sugar. I mean, fructose injures endothelial cells.
The final food we should avoid for endothelium health is dairy.
Dairy, milk, cream, butter, cheese, ice cream, and yogurt.
Now let's summarize top 6 foods we should not eat for better endothelial health.
We avoid the foods that injure the endothelium. What are they? Even pure virgin olive oil, corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, coconut oil, palm oil, dairy, anything with a mother or a face, meat, fish, meat, fish, chicken, and turkey, and also caffeine in coffee and fructose.